All right, everyone. Help me to introduce our next stand-up comedian. You've never seen him before because he's been too busy hiding in the basement with Joe Biden. He's your laugh therapist for the next 15 minutes. Give it up for Rowan Wobbleberry! Oh, thanks everybody. Sorry for the delay. I'll just get right into the comedy for you since you had to you sit and wait. So I'm just gonna start with a couple of one-liners for you, and then I'm gonna get into a couple more jokes that you'll probably enjoy way more. So let's start out with this one. What do you call Ariana Grande when she's at Starbucks? Ariana Bente Mocha. No? Okay. How about this one? Somebody once told me that the dirtiest place on the human body is the mouth, and that toilet seats are even cleaner. But that's a complete lie because you still get a yeast infection. Don't believe everything the janitor tells you. So no, that wasn't all right. Let's try this one instead. Growing up, the only trans thing that made media headlines was to curb trans fat, but I'm sure that some overweight pansexual adopted that term for themselves. All right, this isn't going well. All right, one more of these one-liners, and then we'll. So life is basically just holding on to something for a long time and then dropping it, and then someone else coming over and picking up that thing and saying, "Hey, look what I found!" And then you say, "Hey, that's not your thing," but you can't because you're dead. All right, that then. Okay, well. Enough with those jokes that you don't think are funny. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself instead. Before I decided to do stand-up and become the best laugh therapist this world has ever seen, I actually used to be a teacher for the blind and visually impaired. And during my time as a teacher, I taught a lot of different kids. But one kid that I remember teaching, he was a blind student. He was in his senior year. And I remember him going on the stairs. I was teaching him stair travel, using his cane and everything. And he was having a hard time getting the concept down. And he wasn't very confident with the stairs, and he was kind of all shaky-legged. And I remember asking him, I'm like, "Buddy, what's going on? I'm like, what's with all the hesitation? Why are you shaking so much?" And he's like, "Well, I'm afraid that I'm gonna lose my balance." And I'm thinking, like, who's going to be making you lose your balance? I'm here to catch you. Nobody's pushing you. So I just decided to ask him. I'm like, "All right, bud, well, what's making you lose your balance?" And he decided to come back at me with, "Well, gravitational pull, of course." Yeah, he was a great kid. But the cool thing about being a teacher was that I also got to hear like other lessons that teachers were doing. So I get to like walk in on classrooms and get to hear what they're presenting. And I remember the one teacher was presenting like different clothes to wear throughout the seasons and what the appropriate weather was for the kids to wear these clothes. So they're saying, if it's cold outside, what are you gonna wear? And the kids are like, yeah, a jacket. And they're like, "Good job, Timmy." And then they're like, what are you gonna wear if it's raining outside? And the kids are like, I'm gonna wear my rain jacket. And they're like, "Awesome, Katie, good job. And I remember getting to the one article of clothing, and the answer was priceless. They're like, "And what are these?" And they're like, those are pajama pants." And they're like, "Awesome, good. And what's a good time for you to wear pajama pants? And they're like, at Walmart? So yeah, that's, obviously not the best place to wear pajamas. I mean, maybe it is for some, but yeah. So another one of my students, I remember she was sick for a couple days, and I remember her coming back into school, and I was just trying to make some small talk, and I was saying, hey, so how you feeling? Are you feeling a lot better? She's like, yeah, I'm feeling a lot better. I'm like, well, that's good, that's great. Like, so did you go to the doctor and get some medicine? She's like, no, my mom gave me the good pills. And I was like, the good pills? I was like, I don't even know if I should ask. I was a little hesitant, but I was like, I kind of gotta ask. And I was like, so what do you mean by the good pills? And she's like, oh yeah, the pills that drain all the poop out of you. So definitely not the answer you would expect, but better than what I was thinking. So I'd rather the poop drain out of her than some of the other pill options that are out there. Another kid that I remember teaching, we were learning how to throw things, and we're just doing like overhead tosses, and we're using these like little bean bags that had letters on them, and we had about like a dozen of them or so, and we're just practicing taking them and throwing them up over our head like this and just launching them as hard as we can. And it got down to about 3 letters, and I wasn't really paying attention, and then all of a sudden he goes, hey, look, I can spell a word with this. And I looked down at the letters, and the letters that were left were F, K, and C. And I was like, oh no, here comes another life lesson. And I was like, oh really? What's the word that you can spell? And he's like, look, it spells KFC. And I was like, yeah, buddy, you're right, it does spell KFC. Yeah, so I'm glad that kid didn't know the other word that I was thinking of, but yeah. So there was also this time at the end of the day, the kids were getting ready for dismissal. They're lining up to exit the door and everything, and I'm just listening in on the conversations, and I'm just paying attention to them. And these 2 kids, I remember they were playing a game. They actually just said it. They're like, let's play a game. And then I was like, all right, well, maybe this is a game that I could use with some of my friends. So I started listening in, and he's like, can you say Matt backwards? And the kid's like, yeah, Tam. And he's like, all right. And he's like, all right, can you say cock backwards? And he's like, oh yeah, pock. And I was like, ooh, these kids are good. And then the first kid comes back and he's like, all right, can you say chocolate backwards? And I was like, ooh, chocolate. This one's a little harder. And the kid was sitting there and he's thinking about it. And he's like, and then like a light bulb went off and he got it. And he's ready and he's about to say it and he goes, Barack Obama. So yeah, he wasn't even close, but oh yeah, there's just so many good memories. Well, I'll show 2 more stories with you. The one was during lunchtime, and I was just in there dropping off one of my students, helping her get the lunch and then sitting her down, and I was gonna, skedaddle and go and have my lunch. And while I was in there, one of the kids was actually talking to one of the janitors that worked at the school. And I remember him coming up to him and he was just like, hey, Rick, guess what? He's like, hey, what's going on, little buddy? How you doing? He's like, oh, I found something out today. He's like, oh yeah, what'd you find out? He's like, I found out that you're not my dad. And he's like, oh really, buddy? That's great. I'm sorry, I didn't know I was in the running. And he's like, yeah, I asked my mom, and yeah, you're not him. And he's like, oh, that's okay, bud. Just keep asking around. I'm sure you'll find him. Yeah, so I don't know if it might have been his dad. I'm not sure. I'm just saying that because that janitor kind of slept around and all, but you know, I'm pretty sure most janitors do that. But I'm not one to judge. I'm not one to judge. Anyways, I got one last one for you. So I remember walking into one of the classrooms, and again I heard some kids like arguing with each other, and I was like, oh, this sounds like a pretty good argument. I kind of want to find out what they're talking about. So I started getting a little closer, and I can hear them, but this is how their conversation goes. I'll just play it out for you. The first kid goes, "Yeah, did you know that if you can't actually hold in a fart?" And the other kid's like, "Well, yeah, you can." And he's like, "No, you can't, because if you do, your intestines will explode." It's like, "Nuh-uh." "Yeah, huh? Nuh-uh. Yeah, huh? And how would you know?" "No, you can't, because I'm doing it right now." And once I heard that, I immediately left the room because I wasn't prepared for him to end the testing of his theory and just explode the classroom, forcing me to play a round of guess what I ate for lunch. That's a pizza Lunchable. Yep. Thought it smelled like fermented tomatoes and wet cardboard. And yep, can't wait to play that again tomorrow. All right. Thanks again, guys. That's all I have for you. I hope you all had a good time. And if you need a laugh therapist in the future, just give your friend Rowan Wobbleberry a call. All right. Thanks again. Have a good night, everyone.